Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third session in American English Live Series 19. We are so excited to have you here with us today. My name is Chris McDonald, and I'll be with you here today along with my colleague behind the scenes, Dorea, who will be the moderator, helping answer your questions and responding to your comments during the session. So let's begin today with these wonderful audience comments from our most recent webinar, Choices, 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 Strategies for Student Choice in the Classroom with Elena Andre. First up, we have Sair from Pakistan says, I really didn't know about choices before joining the session, and I learned many things. Indeed, giving choices to students has much importance, and the session was really a wonderful one. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sair, for that wonderful comment. Next up, we have Aidan from Azerbaijan. They say the menu style approach is very useful for us as teachers to simplify the idea of choices for students and to better plan our lessons. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aidan. Yes, the menu style approach is very useful indeed. And lastly, we have Leticia from Mexico. Leticia says, I am very thankful for this webinar. Each class has so many different kinds of students, and to give a topic for all of them becomes too hard. Now I have a lot of ideas because of this webinar. Thank you. Thank you, Leticia. Great comments. So as always, we love to see our teacher participants actively engaged in professional development. So please continue to share your thoughts about our webinars by offering feedback through the end of session quiz form or by emailing them to americanenglishwebinars@fhi360.org. We may feature one of your comments during the next session. Throughout Series 19, we are exploring a variety of strategies for building academic skills for success in the EFL classroom. We hope you are able to use the practical ideas that we share. So here's what to expect today. This session will be about 60 minutes long. The presenter will present the material, and I, as your host, will ask questions and make comments too. But as always, we really hope to hear from you, our wonderful audience, so that we can address your ideas and experiences. So please share them throughout the webinar using the comments feature or chat box. When our session comes to a close, you'll have an opportunity to receive a digital badge for your participation. At the end of the webinar, we will share a link in the comments. Be sure to click on that link and complete a short quiz about today's session. You must answer 2 out of 3 multiple choice questions correctly. Once you have successfully passed the quiz, you can expect to get your badge via email within about a week. Before we begin our webinar, we want to let you know about our English for Business and Entrepreneurship MOOC, or Massive Open Online course. In this free course, participants will learn how to use market research to identify risks and opportunities, create a business plan, and make a pitch to present a business concept. The course is open now, and enrollment closes on March 18th. Please use the link being shared by the moderator to learn more and enroll today. And now for today's webinar, Fostering Academic Collaboration for English Language Learners. By incorporating diverse strategies such as group discussions, peer teaching, and project-based learning, educators can create dynamic, collaborative, and inclusive classroom environments that meet the needs of today's English language learners. These interactive experiences not only improve language acquisition, but also develop critical thinking and communication skills. As educators adapt their teaching methods in the post-pandemic world, prioritizing collaboration is vital in ensuring the academic success and holistic development of English language learners and all learners. This webinar will explore how dividing tasks, sharing roles, and energizing engagement can be crucial steps towards creating a culture of collaboration that benefits all students. And now we are pleased to introduce our presenter, Erin Carlson. Erin's extensive career in education spans over 30 years, and he has a diverse teaching experience in the United States and abroad. His professional journey has included work in countries such as Sweden, Poland, Finland, Moldova, Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and his present engagement in the hybrid of the United States Department of State's English Language Specialist Project, English for Seafarers, headquartered in Panama. Aaron has expertise in critical knowledge domains, including academic writing, pedagogical methodology, and cutting-edge hybrid approaches that prioritize differentiation and remediation. He currently serves as an English language learner coach in Virginia's Fairfax County School District in the United States. Welcome, Aaron. We are so happy to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for that illustrious introduction. What an honor it is. I'm reporting from the United States here in Washington, D.C. What an honor it is to be able to work with teachers across the globe in this type of forum. I really want to give a shout out to the people behind the scenes, Brooke Lindsay, Eliana Black, Cara Howard, and Doria, who's our moderator, and Chris, thank you so much for being on board with us today. It really does take a village here. So let's get started. So our topic is fostering academic collaboration. It's broken into 3 parts. We'll try to balance those parts to give you an even-keeled look at this vital project. Let's take a look at the first goal. So we're going to discuss the benefits of having a collaborative learning classroom. So we're going to look at the nuts and bolts here. How do we instill that culture into our classrooms? All right, so first off, let's define the term. Our Marzano slide gives us the term collaboration and the context that we have. While working in collaboration, students develop knowledge using the 4 language domains. And we're going to talk a little bit about this in just a minute. So what that tells us is collaboration is a partnership in the act of making or doing something. So there is a synonym, cooperation. It is a little different. Cooperation is kind of some experts working in different parts and going for the same goal, but collaboration, they're working on the same task with different roles within that task. We'll talk just about that right now. All right, so before we do it, it's your turn. What are some benefits and or drawbacks of collaborative learning? We'd like to find out in the chat what you have to say about that.
Yeah, everybody, as always, we love to hear from you, our audience. So please share your ideas in the chat or comments. So what are some of the benefits and or drawbacks of collaborative learning? We'd love to hear from you, so please let us know. Aaron will give our audience a moment or so to type those in. And we've got lots of people offering greetings. We've got teachers from all over the world, from Lima, Peru to Vietnam. We've got lots of people from Pakistan, lots of great places. So everybody, yeah, let us know, what are some benefits and or drawbacks of collaborative learning? We'd love to hear from you. So let's see, Aaron, let's see what everyone is saying here. Lots of people are just very excited to be here. We do have one teacher, Noni Sedek, says it helps students to generate ideas. Yes, I love that, Noni, that's great. Then we have Marco Antonio Gonzalez Serrano says that they enhance their social skills. And then we have Priyanka Ratore saying students can learn mutually. I really like that. That's wonderful. That's great. Then we have Diana. Diana says everybody's participating. The weak students will learn from the strong students, and the stronger students can support the lower end students. That's great. And then we have another comment from Hernandez Eralston. He says, 2 heads are better than 1. That's great. And a couple others, people over here are saying that it will help promote critical thinking. We have Julia says communication is one of the benefits. We have Ibrahim saying it helps students to learn from one another. Excellent comments, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my big takeaway from that is kind of the direction we're going in next. We really want to, first of all, we have to know our students. What are they capable of? who is good at working together, and we want to set them up for success, right? We want to give them clear tasks so that they can be successful and master the content that we present them. All right, so the research is clear. Decades of research tells us that indeed collaborative learning has great benefits. I mean, if we look at those experts in the field who've developed PSYOP, Kagan principles, we have Marzano, all of them are clear that when you have learners interacting with each other, then they're reinforcing the content and mastering it. Now, I think it's especially important for us as language teachers to look at that last point there. It says builds the 4 language domains. Let's take a look at the graphic and see what that looks like. All right, so there's a graphic of the 4 language domains. We have our spoken and written. If you're using a textbook or if you're operating within a curriculum, any language that you're looking at, we're trying to develop these 4 domains. So we have the input domain for spoken, which is listening, and the output is speaking. And for the written, input is reading and the output is writing. And so why is this so important for language learners? Well, I'll tell you, the main result is that we are going to have students that are engaging in dynamic collaboration in the academic content. So think of it this way, when they're speaking, right, the other participants have to be listening actively, right? And then they have to react to what's being said. A lot of times we have our own ideas in our head, but when we get that fresh perspective, then we have to kind of rethink about how we're going to talk about that. Now, the reading part of it, we have a shared text and we comprehend it together. But as you know, as teachers with 20, 30 students in the classroom, those different learners have different ways of comprehending the text and different ways of interpreting it. So what collaborative learning does is that it kind of encourages learners to look at those and to develop their opinion, share them, and to broaden their horizons. All right, so let's think about it here. What is one collaborative activity you enjoy doing with your students to strengthen their skills in the 4 domains?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, I'm sure you all have lots of great collaborative activities, and Aaron and I would love to hear from you. So what's one of your favorite activities that you enjoy doing with your students to strengthen their skills in these 4 domains? So please, as always, share your responses in the chat or comments. So let's see, Aaron, as always, you have wonderful teachers. I think maybe they did read the script. We've got some people saying some jigsaw activities or some think, pair, share. We have another teacher saying debates. So lots of great activities. Lots of people are just still giving you greetings. We have Jezebel Vargas Alayo is saying running dictation. We have Luis Fernando Pierola saying, talking about sharing about music. I really like that one. That's great. So lots of great different types of projects, pair work. People are talking about also Costanza Artada de Kiefer is saying to share the traditions from their countries or cultures. Ooh, I really love that. And Hela is saying collaborating, teaching tolerance and fostering open-mindedness. I love that one too. So that's great. Wonderful activities, teachers. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, what I love about that too is that we're getting the whole spectrum where when we talk about language itself, collaboration is really good for beginners and it's good for advanced students. And we as teachers, we as managers, we're there to kind of adjust and to set those students up for success. Great stuff, everybody. All right, so we're going to move into the second section now. And what we're going to do is review the elements of promoting collaborative learning. Like I said a little bit before, right? Most important thing is you really have to know your students. Who can work together? How will they complement each other? And this structured approach, as you have the structured approach and students start to buy in, then you can start to take your hands away from, guiding them along, and they start to take ownership of everything. All right, let's take a look at this section. All right, some elements of collaborative learning. So clear expectations, right? You want to be explicit in your instructions. We got time management, clear roles, language cues, facilitate lively interactions. Let's take a little deeper dive into each one of these. All right, so for this one here, great way to start out maybe the school year, right? If you want to have a class that's truly collaborative, you have to get them to buy in. And a great way to get them to buy in is to have a kind of contract, right? Where everybody's committed to this communication, this working together, right? And some of those elements for the expectations can be ask for and offer help, right? Don't try to, if you're having trouble, don't try to hide from it. Use it as an opportunity to really learn from it. All right. The other part of it is listen carefully and praise your classmates, right? What we want as language teachers, we want these students to take chances with the language. And in order to take chances with it, they have to be able to believe that their colleagues are going to fully support them. All right. Not being afraid to share your work or ideas, right? We had talked a little bit about brainstorming before, right? Getting the ideas down and taking the ideas and seeing what sticks into what we're trying to build here. Always give your best effort. I know, right? First thing in the morning can be a lot harder than a little later in the afternoon, or some people are just night owls and that's when they operate. But doesn't really matter. The way life works is that we all just got to give our best all the time. That's all we can expect. And we want our students to do the same. And finally, the last one, be a good follower and a leader. When you're initially planning your groups, clearly you're going to have one person in each group. You say, you know what, that person is a leader. That person can set up success for this activity. But, you can't be a leader all the time. You have to establish that routine where the leadership is rotating on a regular basis so that, we always love to do the things we're good at, but we're never going to get really good at anything unless we practice, practice, practice. All right, the next one is time management. So essential to collaborative learning. And we know as teachers, this is really important. And Chris, I know that we know that's important too. And we got this 60-minute time frame to work in. So we really have to balance each part of everything that we're doing to make sure that we're giving everything the attention that they need. One way to do that, have your signals in the classroom, maybe a bell, have a timer, could be your cell phone, but just some type of routine that all the students are on board with. All right, the next one is clear roles. So what we mean by clear roles, we could talk about different types of roles, but you want to start off with some general roles for your students. And within those general roles, the students understand what their expectation is and what type of language that they could be using here. So these roles that we have spokesperson, scribe, researcher, and booster. So the spokesperson is kind of the leader. The scribe is the writer in the group. The researcher is looking for maybe words or information in books or on a computer and so on. And then finally, the booster is like, come on, everybody, we can do it. We got this. All right, so here's an example. So what I like to do When I have students initially working on collaborative learning, I like to make sure that they have cards available so that each person knows which role that they have. That role is right in front of them. So on one side is the picture and the role that they have, but on the other side is making sure that they're equipped with the language that they can use in order to make sure that that's successful. Chris, what would a good spokesperson say?
Yeah, the spokesperson might say, like, to ask a question to their team, does everybody understand their roles? We want to make sure that everyone understands so we can work as a team, something like that. How about, Aaron, what might a researcher say?
Well, a researcher might say, wow, let me find a good definition in the dictionary, right? So that person is they got their nose in the book and they're ready to go, enthusiastic about finding information that will help support completing the task. What about the booster, Chris?
Yeah, I love the booster. You kind of made me think of like a cheerleader, right? So the boosters are like, let me help you. I want to support you. When we work together, anything is possible. I love that title of that role, the booster. And Aaron, how about the scribe? What might the scribe say?
Well, the scribe is, I look at that as kind of the pillars, the spokesperson and the scribe. If you have those two, then you're really moving forward. But the scribe could say, can you say that again in a simpler way so I can write it down? So usually the scribe will have like a little piece of paper or some place to take notes. And is the person kind of condensing the information and getting it where it needs to be? All right, and then we're looking at language cues, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, right? Collaborative learning kind of takes us as a teacher away from the front of the room. You're not really the focus of the attention. You spend a lot of time setting up your groups. What's the expectation? What language are they supposed to use? What input? What output? So what are they going to produce? So what you'll be doing, maybe you have a class of 16 students, right? So you got 4 groups of 4. So the teacher is kind of bouncing around, making sure that everybody's doing and communicating what they need to do. Let's look at some examples. So we talk about a cue. So a cue is a thing said or done to act as a signal to do something. The teacher gave a cue to continue and to say more about the subject. So it's a sign or a signal. And in this case, they're physical cues, right? Nonverbal cues. All right. So I've given you a few examples here. So if you say you're going around the room and you're observing a group and they're just kind of given short phrase answers, you want to give them a physical cue. Try it, everybody. Point your index finger into your palm and you say, cite your evidence, explain why, tell me more. Okay. And then if we want them collaborating in twos, maybe you've given a little presentation about a difficult point. You want to get students to talk about it. So then we want our think, pair, share. So everybody think, pair, share. Think, pair, share. All right, another one that I think that some students, you really have to encourage them to kind of, extend their thoughts a little bit, get away from the yes, no, maybe, I don't know type of answers, and use complete sentences. Use complete sentences, everybody. Use complete sentences. All right, and then maybe I use this more with my own children than anything, but just to continue and to elaborate. Come on, let's keep it going here. Continue or elaborate. All right, and then our next one is building on what you've said, right? So you said one thing, all right, next person build, round robin build, round robin build, and then we're building up and we're building a huge skyscraper of ideas. All right. And then finally, give a different point of view. So here's the point of view, and now you want to change it. You want to give a different point of view. What's the other side of it, right? What's the other side of this point of view? That's one, and where's the other? Come on, guys, you got that one idea. Now it's time for the other one. All right, so a few physical cues for language coaching that you could use in the classroom. I'm sure you have your own, but the main point here is that you are managing the class, right? That you're going around, you're not really interrupting things, but you're kind of pushing things forward.
That's great, Aaron. One of our teachers in our audience says exactly that. Barbara Francescini says, I love the physical cues because then you're not interrupting your students, just as you said. That's great. And lots of other teachers are just saying these are great physical cues. Some other teachers say they also use different facial expressions as cues as well, which I thought was really interesting to share. So thank you so much for sharing, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then we're looking at the final point for elements of collaborative learning. So what you want to do is facilitate lively interactions and routines. Now, this picture is kind of important here because when we talk about routines in a classroom, I like to have the four corners or stations, routines. Kids know that it's going to be a grammar one, it's going to be a vocabulary one, this one's going to be a speaking one, I'm going to be writing at this one. So they kind of know what they're going to do, but when they get there, they don't, then they know for sure how it relates to the content of what we're doing in the class. Another key picture there too is just to have the tools for collaborative learning. Wow, it looks like the same picture. So have the tools, right? I like to have a little bowl or a little cup that's on the table that has the activity for the day. Everybody comes in, they see that in the middle of the table, they're like, what's going on today? It's gonna be something fun, I'm sure. All right, so for group routine, we have some vocabulary that everybody understands. That's part of the routine. When students come into the classroom, you want them to settle in, to kind of focus on the topic, make their own connection, and to kind of develop a purpose for the lesson for themselves. What objectives will they have and how will they accomplish them? So what that would be is students come in, seated, silent, solo. I have something on the board, everybody settles in, and we're all focused on getting the job done for the day. Now, a lot of pair work, we already talked about that a little bit, right? And it really depends on the construction of your classroom. But we got a shoulder partner, right? Person who's right next to you, or you have a face partner right across from you. And what that does is you go together and you can do your think, pair, share. Think, pair, share. So think, pair, share is a really great technique for making sure that students understand what has been covered and kind of share and give their perspectives and make that bridge for the next thing you're going to do. All right, another key term for collaborative learning is round robin. And with my students, I always tell them, I don't even have to tell them round robin. A lot of times I'll just go tick, 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 like a clock, right? That tells them they have to go clockwise, right? Once they're done, everybody goes clockwise. You're always going to the right. So round robin, an opportunity to share ideas all around, and in a lot of cases to change your roles during the round robin. And then finally, the last part that came up has already come up already, and we're going to delve deeper into that in a little bit, is a jigsaw. So the jigsaw a lot of times can be related to a reading, right? Or it can be related to big chunks of information. So you have different groups who are those experts who in a specific part of that big chunk, and they operate in the jigsaw. And as a classroom, you kind of all put it together and it becomes a beautiful picture of learning. All right, Chris, it's time. We got to keep the ball rolling here. I think we're about halfway through right now, but we're going to have to finish strong. So we got to push that ball and make sure it's rolling along. All right, so keep the ball rolling is an idiom. And the meaning is to cause an activity or process to continue. The teacher kept the ball rolling by giving cues for a complete sentence. There's our complete sentence right there. Come on, everybody, use your complete sentences. All right, so keep the ball rolling means continue, extend, and to keep things moving along. All right, and one way to do that is to equip the learners with the language that they need in order to continue the conversation, expressing an opinion. Chris, which one of those do you like?
Ooh, yeah, I love these sentence frames. I think for expressing an opinion, the most basic one I would say like I think that or I believe. And maybe a little higher level, I would say I predict or I imagine, something along those lines. But yeah, great sentence frames.
Yeah,
So
that
Eric, yeah,
hits a
go
mark.
ahead.
Yeah.
So how about Aaron, when asking for clarification, which one of these sentence frames do you like?
Well, I like the second one. Could you give me an example of that? Right? That's once again, that's me, right? I want my example. Come on. Don't just stop there. You got more. I know you got something concrete for me.
I love your cues, Aaron. They're wonderful, and our audience does too.
All right, and then finally we have building on what others say. All right, Chris, which one you got?
I like the second one, like Aaron, you bring up an interesting point. And I also think that, cues can be used in another way. So I like that
There we
second one.
go. There we go, Chris. We're building on that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
love it.
Making a skyscraper. All right, so those are some key terms for everybody. Now it's your turn. What are some group roles and routines you like to use in a classroom to build community? Remember, this section is all about, getting everybody to buy into this collaborative experience. For, language teachers, this is so crucial. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, everybody, we're super curious about what you all think are some ways that you make group roles and routines in your classroom to help build community. I know you are all out there doing lots of great things. Aaron just shared some great ideas for creating group roles and titles, as well as different routines. So what about you all? What do you do to create roles and routines to build classroom community? Please let us know in the chat. So let's see, Aaron, let's see what people are saying. But yeah, lots of people are just, oh, these cues are so great. I love these sentence frames. People are just really exciting. So a couple of teachers are saying that they use some games, bingo games, for example, or another teacher is saying, to build community, just in the importance of mutual respect in the classroom, things of that nature. Lots of teachers have different names for assigning roles for teachers, kind of rotating rotating the roles for the students. And this one teacher, Frances Prada, says a good routine for Monday is to have her students talk about the weekend. That's always a great idea. Another teacher, Razia, said that they kind of have different groups for different activities, and that's really wonderful. And then we have Kari Ridzi saying, lots of teamwork, as you said, Aaron, doing jigsaw readings, lots of different games for learning. And let's see, we have Costanza is saying that when they work with group roles, they like to show them how they worked in order for the students to understand. So kind of a demonstration of each of the roles. So I think that's really important too. And we'll do one more. So yeah, lots of games, debates, dialogues. Teachers seem to have these types of activities and routines that help them build their community in their classroom. So that's wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much. Lots of great ideas there. We have people saying buzz groups, reaching consensus. I'd love to hear more about that. Lots of great ideas, everybody.
Yeah, that really acts as a bridge for our final section, which is probably the best one. Because, anytime I take part in a seminar, I'm always like, well, what am I going to do when I go back to class tomorrow? Right. So hopefully we can come up with some good ideas that will inspire you and help you, you know, engage your learners in a different way, that'll put a big smile on their faces, which makes what's teaching all about for us. All right, so now we're gonna plan for how to successfully implement. All right, so we got some collaborative approaches. We got 3 approaches that we're going to address here: discussion grids, connecting the bigger picture, and literature circles. I think somebody's going to be able to walk away with something here today.
Oh, absolutely. Teachers are already so excited, Aaron. They're ready to take away some of these ideas you've already shared and incorporate them into their classes tomorrow. And that's what we want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And there were teachers before who were talking about games. And, I'm a big proponent of games in the classroom. And every classroom's different. Some are hyper competitive and some are just kind of laid back and they want to take their time. And it's all about you knowing your class and how they operate together. You want to make everybody comfortable and you want to make it an enjoyable experience. Now, this one involves dice, right? 1 die, 2 dice, and it's a discussion grid. And I designed this one for the start of a unit on collaborative learning because I wanted students to kind of engage each other. So it's a combination of a couple of different things. We're using tag questions, which engage the listener into trying to respond and to dig deeper into the topic. And for this unit, uh, it was about pollution and and uh, getting students to talk about different countries because the groups that I'm working with, they were very diverse. So I wanted them to have an opportunity to kind of explore and look at what they know about other cultures. All right, but there are a lot of different ways that you can um, implement this type of activity. We'll look at that in just a second. But clearly, what the benefits are here is that we have those sentence frames again. And as we practice with our students, we have the questions and you frame your answers on that and trying to create a dialogue within the group. And tag questions are a great way to keep the ball rolling, right? That's our big focus here. We want to keep the ball rolling. We want to keep the students interacting, and we want to keep them on the road to mastery of the content. That's a good idea, isn't it, Chris?
It is, isn't it? I love it. That's great, Aaron. Yeah, lots of people are really excited about these tag questions and people are already commenting about the benefits of this. So really wonderful, isn't it, everybody?
All right, so how does this work? So you can have like 2 to 5 students is ideal. Sometimes classes are really huge. I've seen seminars with like 100 people before, and they can make this type of activity work. So you have two die, right? 2 dice, 1 die, 2 dice. So the way that you read it when you roll it, so say you have a 5 and a 3, right? So you always read the high number first and then the low number next. So I would go across. I would go across 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would go down 3. Okay, so every time. So the goal is to try and answer all the boxes. Well, we talked about time management too. Sometimes, you can't make this your whole lesson, but you really don't want to give the students enough time to have fun with it and take chances and to answer as many of the grids as you can. All right. So
How long, Aaron, do you normally do this with your students? Like 5 or 10 minutes or so? You said not the
yeah,
whole class. So what would you recommend?
I wouldn't go past 12 minutes. I like to keep my activities short, but within the context of what we're trying to learn for the day. Um, it could be a little different. Uh, Sometimes I'll do a board game or this type of activity for a review before a test. So you want to make sure that everybody has mastered the content before the test. But if it's just a regular activity, yeah, follow in that 8 to 12 minute range so that we can keep the lesson tight and moving forward.
That's great. And lots of nice comments coming in, just talking about this discussion grid is a great idea. Teachers are already brainstorming ways that they can incorporate it into their class depending on the topic. A couple of our teachers are saying that they can see how they could use it for grammar or just even to help them develop critical thinking skills. So everyone's really excited about this discussion grid. So awesome comments, everybody. Yes. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of great dice activities out there, but I think that's another seminar in itself. So let's focus a little bit more on this one. So as some of our participants had just said, right, there are different ways that you can adjust and adapt it. It could be a specific grammar point, right? In this case, there were tag questions, but it could be present perfect is a great one for getting information out of people. Yeah, it could be also too, it could be specific vocabulary for the unit that you're doing too. There's an example of an adaptation here on the side here, very simple about pets. So as you can see, this type of activity, it's accessible to beginning students and our uber advanced students too. Now, as far as the dice are concerned, YouTube, you can get electronic dice, but if you don't have a projector or anything like that, we have regular dice, or I've seen creative students before just have little cards with numbers on it and just start to pick them into it like that. So anybody who wants to play a game, they'll find their way to do it. All right, so yeah, really not a written part to this one. You have your spokesperson, your booster, your coach. You're trying to encourage people, and we're going through and we're doing a round robin, and we're trying to get as much communication or extended communication as we can. But I know we have to keep the ball rolling here, Chris. So it's a good idea to move on, don't you think?
Absolutely. Let's keep that ball rolling, Aaron. Everyone's super excited. They're just so excited with all your great ideas, but we want to make sure we get to all of them. So let's keep it going, shall we?
All right, so there's a look at what the discussion grid looks like. You can have your dice and then bing, bang, boom, they're rolled. Can we go to the next slide? Oh, we got it. There we go. So there it is. So we take the high number first. So the high number goes across, and then the low number goes down, and that gives you your question. All right, so that's how it works. Can we move to the next slide? So here we have it. So we have a 4 and a 3. Protecting our planet from pollution is everyone's responsibility, isn't it? Of course it is. All right, so now it's your turn. Let's give you one from the grid here. Do you think protecting our planet from pollution is everybody's responsibility?
Yeah, everybody, let us know your thoughts about this. So Aaron demonstrated that the theme of this lesson or this unit was about the environment, climate, recycling, etc., pollution. So what do you all think? Is protecting our planet everybody's responsibility? And why? Let us know. So lots of absolutely, for sure, Aaron, definitely. Yes, because it is our future, Raza Banyo says. It definitely is our responsibility to protect our planet from pollution. And an overwhelmingly positive reaction in the comments. Lots of yeses and of courses and absolutelys. So I'm glad everyone is on the same page that we all agree that protecting our planet from pollution is all of our responsibilities. That's great. Thank you so much, everybody.
We have a pretty green group, Chris, don't we?
We love it. Yes, absolutely. They're the best, aren't they?
Yes, they are. All right, let's move on. All right, so our next activity is called connecting the bigger picture. So what this does is it gets students to observe and analyze and to kind of tease out different perspectives. So we have see, think, me, we. Wow, those are some pretty good perspectives right there. So see is kind of what's there on the surface. Think, getting your opinion. Me, how does it connect to, how does it connect to you yourself? And then we, what's the global way that we can look at this, right? It fosters critical thinking, self-reflection, and collaborative communication. All right, we got our domains here. We got active reaction and input. We can have a round robin to this, and we'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Critical interpretation with your reading, and we can share out as a group too. You can incorporate some writing part to it, but yeah, it's a nice speaking activity. All right, let's move on. All right, so with connecting the big picture, the instructor determines who will go first. A lot of times when I determine who goes first, I might say, the person in the group who goes first, their first name is closest to the letter A. So that people are like, oh my God, well, how close am I to the letter A? Or the person in the group to go first will be the person with a birthday closest to today. So, so at the same time, they're kind of getting to know each other. All right. So when they're doing the activity, they're doing a bit of round robin, and we're doing it in a clockwise fashion. All right, let's take a look. All right, so your groups could be ideally in fours, but if you have 2 or 6, we could do more of that. We'll have a spokesperson, we'll have some coaching here, and a booster trying to encourage everybody. But the most important part with this activity, I think, is really interesting photos. Let's take a look. All right, so here we have it. We have a photo here. So when you're doing the analysis of the photo, you want to take it from 4 perspectives here. We have see, think, me, and we. So what you could do is you could start out with the see part, look closely at the work. What do you notice? So they're pulling out pieces of the picture. Chris, what do you notice here?
So yeah, I notice a person with it looks like a red bandana. It looks like they have some kind of tool, perhaps a drill of some sort. Looks like they are working on some kind of project. Maybe I see what looks to me glass because I see the person's reflection. So those are the things that I see and I notice.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so those are things on the superficial side. All right, let's move on to the think. What thoughts do you have about the work? I think that she's doing a hard job, right? That's physical labor right there. And it's probably something really important. Otherwise, if it weren't important, they wouldn't be giving her those big tools to work with. All right, let's move on to the me. What connections can you make between you and the work? So I don't know, a connection that I can make here is that it's a lot of hard work. Um, but once you have a job that's really important, the most important thing to do is to kind of focus in on that job and to keep at it until it's done. You know that it's serving a greater good for everybody, and you just got to keep at it and get the job done. All right, and then finally in the we section part of it is the part where the group comes together and they go through how it connects to today's events. So actually this picture itself is from the Smithsonian. It's from World War II. So I would think it's about 80 something years old. So if you think about it, 80 years ago, you wouldn't see a lot of women working in a factory, but because it was World War II and the soldiers were out there, the women had to go into the factory and to work. Now, today, if there's a problem with your family or the community, what do? We pitch together to solve the problem and to make things right for everybody. I think that's a big takeaway for us. All right, we got to keep the ball rolling here. Let's move on to the next slide. So our final activity are literature circles, and these are our higher order type of collaborative learning here. It's probably something a little more difficult for beginning students. You have to be intermediate, upper intermediate, advanced students. You want to have It's a structured group where you want to have texts that are within their lexile level, where that they can they can be accessible and that they can be able to interpret it, right? You don't want to get too bogged down into topics and vocabulary that you're not familiar with. All right, so the objective is to enhance comprehension, critical thinking, and communication skills, right? Talking about the book itself, not looking just superficially at it, but yeah, being able to synthesize the information and then to make connections with it. All right, so what does it do? It fosters collaboration, develops deeper understanding, and it really brings in those 4 domains, right? Reading, writing, listening, speaking. They're all involved here in an academic manner. All right, so important steps when you're putting together a literature circle. You want to select a book or books that are accessible. You form your groups. Once again, you want to be forming them according to interest, according to ability, according to who would work well together. Ideally, people will be making choices about their own interests. Assign roles in the group, set a reading schedule, schedule discussion meetings, facilitate discussions, encourage critical thinking, promote respectful dialogue, conclude the activity, and build in that reflection part, being able to evaluate how you did with it and was it successful, what could I do better, and how does that book connect to me? All right, let's look at how we would approach that book itself. So the structures could involve 3 to 6 students, a jigsaw, 4 quarters, round robin. You could change the roles up a little bit. You could have a discussion director, a summarizer, a connector, a word wizard, an illustrator, right? We talked about these roles before. People have their own take on it, right? But it's a little bit different when you're dealing with fiction and you're dealing with how to interpret this type of fiction and art, if you will. All right, and there we have it. We have, once again, collaboration is teasing out those 4 domains. Let's look at how we're going to break up those tasks with the reading. All right, so when you are reading, you always want to break it into 3s, right? Before, during, and after. All right, so if you're dealing with a text, you want to be able to have readers develop a purpose before they read. That could be predict, or could be visualize, it could be question. In this case, we have an image here for the book that we're looking at. And in the image, we have a boy. Doesn't look like he's wearing any shoes. Looks like he has a fishing pole. So it looks like a boy of leisure here. So it's definitely not in our time period. It's from a time period long ago too. So before I start to read, I know that I'm looking at a different time period. So I'm trying to draw in those details to be able to make a connection to that. All right, let's look at during. So when you're reading a text, you want to look at all those elements of what are parts of fiction. It could be you have the students looking for conflict, plot, but in this case, setting, right? So setting is time and place. Saturday morning came, all the summer world was bright and fresh and full of life. All right, so there we have it. There's our setting. So we want to develop a purpose before, during reading, have another skill that we're focusing on and being actively engaged in the text. And then finally, with our literature circles, we want to put together successful groups. We want to have that higher order type of principle involved here. So first and foremost, it's important to summarize what you've read. So it could be a number of pages, but when summarizing, you really want to make it short and succinct And to do this, you have to synthesize the information. How can I relate what it is in just a few sentences? Also, too, you can talk about the literary devices. Once again, we said that this is art here. You might want to have students look for examples of hyperbole or exaggeration, metaphor, comparing two things, right? Personification, maybe the pillow invited him to sleep, right? So you want to look at these types of figurative language and how does it make the story better? All right, and then finally, when you've made, when everybody has a firm understanding of the text, you really want to respond to that text. How does that text relate to me? How does the text relate to something that I've read before? How does the text relate to world events, right? And these are just some of the ideas that you can have students work with when they're working in their literature circles. Really great opportunity to get students to dive deep into a piece of literature and to really take an academic approach to reading and discussing and, having their best success with collaborative learning. All right, so we've reached the end here, everybody. I want to thank you. I think that we can walk away today with some ideas about how to create well-structured groups. We've looked at the 4 domains and how they're so crucial to our language teaching. We want to make sure that communication between students is interactive and extended, right? We want to be able to give coaching tips to everybody, manage the time. Chris, I think we managed the time a little bit better this time. We want to use cues. And the last thing I want to leave you with, just like anything, right? You can take part in any type of presentation or seminar, but you really need to make it your own, right? What I do is what I do. It's got me, it's got my personality. It's like a secret family recipe, right? But what the most success that you can have is when you take something and you make it your own and give that gift to your students. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate everything.
Wow, thank you, Aaron, so much. So many wonderful comments coming in from our amazing audience. Everyone's loving these activities on how to create a more collaborative classroom. Lots of people are excited to try these tomorrow, this week, very soon in their classes. We'd love to hear it. Lots of people are just saying they absolutely loved your session. Great ideas that you shared with everybody. Really, really perfect. Again, Aaron, those are awesome, awesome, great approaches for creating culture of collaboration in the English foreign language classroom. And of course, everybody, thank you, our wonderful audience out there. Awesome engagement today as usual, wonderful participation. So please continue to share your thoughts and ideas through social media in our chat box or with your viewing group if you are hopefully watching with them right now after the session ends.